You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio with Joe Cristiano from the studios of Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Also, you can hear Joe by visiting our website at libertytalkradio.com. With so many voices, opinions, and agendas, Joe encourages America to shed what has become conventional thinking regarding our political structure and join our founders by becoming revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Join Joe in the march toward freedom from tyranny. Visit our website to learn more and join the conversation. Now, here's Joe Cristiano.
Good morning, folks. I have to admit that I had a very traumatic week. I'd like to share just some of it with you, although I don't mean to bore you and inject my personal affairs into your life. I think this may be important. On Thursday, I was home ironing. You heard me right, I was ironing. You ask, why would a macho guy like me be ironing? Well, if you met my wife, you'd say, well, boy, she's a pretty gal. She's intelligent. She's got a nice personality. Why would she be married to Joe? I do the ironing. Now you know, the whole world knows, okay? She's really a sharp gal. She knows when she's got a good thing going. I do the ironing, and I'm really good at it. I get her blouses and straight the sleeves. I got these, knife edge creases on it. I'm really good. Been doing it for decades so far. She loves it. I tell you, what also happens, though, is that word got out around the neighborhood that I do the ironing. As a result, all the women in the neighborhood all of a sudden started getting friendly with me. They call me and they go, oh, hi, Joe, how are you? All of a sudden, they're really friendly. I couldn't figure it out. They've never been this friendly before. In fact, you have no idea. They call me, they say, you want to come over? I just baked some cookies. I have cupcakes. You want to come over and have one of my cupcakes? I say, no, I don't think so. In fact, on Thursday while I was ironing, a woman came to my house and she said, hi, Joe. I said, yeah, what do you want? She said, I just made some cannolis. You're Italian, you like cannolis? I got cannolis for you. You want to come over and have one of my cannolis? I said, no, I don't want one of your cannolis. I know why you're asking. You want me to do your laundry and your ironing. I'm not doing it. I slammed the door shut. I went back to my ironing. What happens? All of a sudden, I hear chanting on the front door, banging on the front door. Come over for my cupcakes. Come over for my cookies. Cannolis, cannolis. It's driving me nuts. I can't iron because I hear all this throbbing in the background. I had this peaceful day. Now I have a bunch of women out there wanting me to do their ironing for them, and I don't want to do it. So what do? I made a classic mistake. Classic, folks. Don't ever try this at home. Don't ever try this at home. I turned on the television. I know, I don't watch TV. I turned on the television. I turned it on, even with the chanting in the background, just to drown out the noise, and I put it really loud so I wouldn't have to hear these women in the background. Oh, eat my cannolis. I don't want to eat your cannolis. I want to be left alone. I'm almost finished my ironing, but I had to listen to the television because I wasn't finished yet. What's on TV? The news. Oh, my goodness gracious. I hate the news on TV. It confuses me. In fact, it bothers me to a point I usually don't even sleep that night. There's this woman. She's interviewing this high-level government official, senior official, Mr. Muckety-Muck. I don't know what his name was. Now, it's amazing that these news reporters, female news reporters, look like they all stepped out of the pictures of Vogue magazine. She was gorgeous. I know I'm saying that on the air. It's not right. They'll tell me to stop saying things like that. But this woman was a knockout. I don't know how she got a job as a reporter. Anyway, she asked a question of this senior elected official. He was a chairman, like they're all chairman of something that we don't understand. Only they understand they make a lot of money. this guy was the chairman of not the Appropriations Committee, but something like the Linguistics Committee or something. I couldn't figure out. I think it was called the Gymnastics Committee. He was subcommittee chairman. And she asked him whether or not she thought that a certain legislation that they had been referring to would be passed. Folks, I was all right up until then. And this is what his answer was. He said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I went blind in my left eye. I couldn't take it. Cautiously optimistic. That didn't register. My brain said, tilt, it doesn't exist. While you're listening to the television, turn it off before your brain shuts down. Cautiously optimistic. I'm getting dizzy. I can't think. I keep on thinking, cautiously optimistic. What does that mean? You're optimistic or you're cautious? You're cautious, you're optimistic. It goes round and round. It's like perpetual motion, and I'm going nuts. I'm getting dizzy. I have to hold on to the ironing board. I'm going to my knees. Crawl. I crawl to the dictionary. Yes, I know you find this hard to believe. I own a dictionary. It's called Merriam-Webster. I don't know if Merriam or Webster wrote these definitions. Don't care. In fact, I don't even care if it was Merriam or Webster's dinosaur dog. You say, how do I know they had a dinosaur dog? How do I know that? Because they named it Thesaurus, that's why. And anything named Thesaurus has got to be prehistoric. So I look up the dictionary, cautious. Here's the definition from either Merriam or Webster. It says, implies the exercise of forethought, usually prompted by fear of danger. Oh my goodness gracious. It confirmed my worst nightmare. My brain can't even function at this point. The exercise of forethought, usually prompted by fear of danger. I had to look up optimistic, put this whole thing together. Optimistic, an inclination to put the most favorable construction upon actions and events. Put those two together. What do you get? You know what you get? You get a cannoli. That's all you get. It makes no sense. And yet, the worst part of this interview is after he said, I'm cautiously optimistic. This supermodel reporter girl that I'm falling in love with by looking at her, what did she say? She said, thank you. Oh my God, I can't say it. Thank you for your insight. Back to you, Bob. I went to my knees. I can't take it anymore. People in America are watching television. You know what they say? Oh, I keep informed. I watch the news. And I go, you must be watching a news that I've never heard of before, because when I watch the news, I go blind in my left eye. How could you watch that stuff? They say, well, I learn what's going on. Oh, my God. Could you imagine? Could you imagine people saying, I learn what's going on. I keep informed by watching the news. Think about that. When every time you say that to yourself, think of cautious optimism. Cautious optimism. You have just got to have a brain problem with that. But you know, it doesn't even stop there. Think of all the other terms they use. Remember, at one time, we heard things like, they hate our freedom. They want to kill us because they hate our freedom. I never understood that. I don't hate anybody's freedom. Why would they hate my freedom? Could you imagine? There's Mohadeen and his friend. They're out in the desert somewhere, 7,000 miles away, trying to eke out a living, trying to do the same thing I'm doing, provide for their family. Mohadeen turns to his friend and says, you know, I think my number one priority is to hate Americans because I hate their freedom. Instead of going to work today, trying to find food for my family, I'm going to construct an underwear bomb and blow them up. Now, If you can believe that, folks, stay with me. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio, the voice of freedom in an America filled with a self-serving federal government operating oversized budgets that threaten our liberties. Joe would like to hear your comments. You can email Joe at comments@libertytalkradio.com. We're back with Liberty Talk Radio. If you want to join in on the conversation, call us or find us on Facebook or Twitter. Or visit our site at libertytalkradio.com to join the blog. Now, here's Joe.
Our toll-free number now is 855-866-1170. That's 855-866-1170. Some of you have the number of 918-460-1170. Either one would do, but it's toll-free, 855-866-1170. And don't forget our email address, comments@libertytalkradio.com. I want to hear from you, comments@libertytalkradio.com. Especially if you totally disagree with me. Now, we were talking about underwear. I think that's where we left. We left with underwear. Now, this country has been relegated to be talking about underwear bombers. It would surprise me if underwear manufacturers like the Pens are now considered terrorists because people can put bombs in there, blow everything up. Now, you can imagine, just think for a second. You're out there eking out a living, but the only thing on your mind, what's possessing you, what's driving you, is to put a bomb in your underwear and blow yourself up 7,000 miles away to a country that you have no idea where it is. And yet we're told they hate our freedom. And you know what we say? We go, oh yeah, he knows. They hate our freedom. You have no idea how many times I ask people, why do you think they did that? The answer is, they hate our freedom. They don't hate our freedom. They don't hate anything. Why do you believe that stuff? It drives me nuts. I was in a business meeting. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, they allowed me in a business meeting. I know. Not very often, but every once in a while. After I'm heavily medicated, they allow me in a business meeting. And this guy made a comment. I literally interrupted him. Couldn't take it anymore. He said, well, in this post-9/11 world, I literally said, stop, don't say anymore. My brain hurts. I can't take it anymore. What do you mean a post-9/11 world? Before 9/11, I had a car payment. After 9/11, the car payment's still there. It didn't go away. My mortgage is still there. I went home. My wife still insists that I throw the garbage and do the ironing. Nothing in my life has changed. We use these terms. Why? So we justify anything. Well, in this post 9/11 world, and then we say something stupid. And when I hear it, I go blind. My left eye goes first. I get dizzy, and I pass out. Do you know I have to walk around with a bicycle helmet so I don't kill myself when I hit the ground? And then we say things like, let's see, a guy told me this. It's Starbucks. In Starbucks, I have witnesses. The guy says, Joe, I heard you on the radio. I've been listening for years, and let me tell you the difference between you and I. I go, sure, you tell me what's the difference. Like I care, I really care, And he says, I love my country, you don't. It's Starbucks. I started going blind. I get dizzy. My brain hurts. You love your country. Tell me, what do you love about it? The concrete or the trees? Be specific. Be specific. Tell me what you love about it. What do they say? You're crazy, and they leave. How could you love a country? I can't hug anything. I can only hug my wife, and she won't allow me to hug the reporter on TV who's a supermodel. She won't let me do it. I can only hug one woman, her. And I have to do the ironing. Nothing has changed. And I love only one person, my wife. I have to. It's in the marriage contract somewhere. I know I read it once, decades ago. I couldn't change it. No alterations to that. My God, we say things. It's amazing, you know. In a free society like the United States, free? Free? How could it be free? First of all, the government regulates everything that I do. I can't even order coffee at a coffee shop without some sort of regulation on the coffee. How much is that? Everything's regulated. When I go home, I'm regulated. I do the ironing. I'm a real patriot. What does that mean? You know, we use these terms over and over again. They would say, you know, you got to watch them people in the Middle East. You know, that crazy people over there. You know, they got this dumb religion here. They want to kill us. I go, yeah. You ask a doofus over there. You know, oh, the Middle East, where's that? Well, you know, it's over there. You know, down in the Middle East, that part. Don't you know that? Middle East is the Middle East. You don't know where the Middle East is? I said, tell me, where is it? Well, it's in the Middle East. That's where it is. I said, could you name some countries in the Middle East? Well, they got there's Saudi Arabia people over there, you know, with the turbines. Oh, Saudi Arabia people with the turbines. Yeah, they got turbines. I think they're spinny, like the little spinny wheels thing on top, you know? We used to have those things when we were kids, you know? They were still wearing those things. That's about the mentality of my... Let me explain something. Let me tell you something. I bet you very few people, even in my listening audience, even those that are informed, don't even know the countries in the Middle East. I'm going to name some of them. You ready? Here are the core countries. Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan, Oman, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, Syria, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Lebanon. It's the first time you've ever heard anyone say that. On the news, they don't tell you. They just said, hey, in the Middle East. It's like there's a magical place. We all know where it is. And then when we talk about other countries, those crazy Arabs in the Middle East, we talk about Iran. The only time I ran is when I ran a marathon. Iran is not in the Middle East. Iran borders the Middle East with Sudan. Egypt ain't in the Middle East, folks. Not there. You can't move it to make yourself feel better. Azerbaijan, my favorite one. Azerbaijan. I like the name, Azerbaijan. And if I had to change my name, I would change it to Mohadin. I love that name, but it's musical. Mohadin. My name is Joe. What is it, Joe? What is that terrible name? I don't like my name, Joe. I'm going to change it to Mohadin. I love that name. Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, Bulgaria. Bulgaria borders the Middle East. How many people knew that? Georgia, and I don't mean Georgia in the United States, Ukraine, and here are the big ones. Here are the big ones, folks. Who borders the Middle East? Russia and China. And where do we have tons, literally dozens and dozens military bases with missiles facing in one direction? Guess who has those things, folks? Guess. We do. And then we say, I wonder why they're upset. I can't believe that they're upset just because we have these cute little nuclear missiles right on the border of that. It's like having it on, you know, in Mexico, right on the border of the Rio Grande, of having these nuclear missiles facing us in all directions. And it wouldn't bother us. No, because it's only fair. We have our missiles on their border. They have their missiles on our border. Everybody's happy because everyone's going to die. How about the waterways of the Middle East? Did you know it was the Caspian Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Black Sea, the Arabian Sea, the Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea? Would you believe that? And the Aral Sea. Right? You just got a history lesson. So we say the Middle East, tell me what you're talking about. But we don't. We just use words, but we use words that we simply repeat what we hear on television. It makes me feel like I only have this casual relationship with reality. I'm living here. I didn't take the blue pill. I don't know what's going on. Folks, we have to become educated as to what is going on. When we should not be listening to TV, watching TV. We shouldn't. Wait, please, don't listen to news. They say, well, Joe, how am I supposed to know
what's going on around the planet, you know, if I don't watch damn TV, you know, they tell me what's going on. All right, doofus, let me tell you something. How many things occur every day around the globe? Trillions, literally trillions. Now, how many important things happen? Maybe in the millions, maybe even the billions. On TV, you get 12. Who picks the 12 out of the millions? And then they tell you that's important. You listen to it. Sometimes you memorize it. You repeat it to your friends at the coffee shop, and you say, I'm informed. Sounds kind of stupid, does it? Sounds ridiculous. You know, back in 500 and something BC, don't remember the exact date or the month, about 500 BC. Is that good enough for you? Or you want me to get the exact date and hour? Confucius, of all people, said, when words lose their meaning, people lose their freedom. Let me repeat that. When words lose their meaning, people lose their freedom. Every time I think of that, I feel like having a cannoli. Even poet W.H. Auden said, when words lose their meaning, physical force takes over. Now think about that. Do you know the United States is not even considered by the World Council anymore as a free nation? And surprise, surprise, wake up, folks. We're no longer a free nation. We are listed under almost free nations. And they're being generous at that, and they know it. They don't want to hack us off too badly. You know why? Because we use words that have nothing to do with our Constitution. You know, we listen to these people, these high-level elected officials who, before they go into office, they swear to abide by the Constitution, and they lie. Before they take office, they lie through their teeth. We know they're lying. We say, politicians, I don't trust any one of them, man. The politicians no damn good. They're lawyers and stuff like that. I don't trust. They're not like that. They don't know what the average man really needs and wants. They don't know. They don't understand me. And then we go vote for them. Do you detect, now, let me ask you, do you detect a problem here? If you do, tell me. Our toll-free number is 855-866-1170. It's 855-866-1170. Direct 918-460-1170. Comments at libertytalkradio.com. Let's stop for a break.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio, the voice of freedom in an America filled with a self-serving federal government operating oversized budgets that threaten our liberties. Joe would like to hear your comments. You can email Joe at comments@libertytalkradio.com. We're back with Liberty Talk Radio. If you want to join in on the conversation, call us or find us on Facebook or Twitter. Or visit our site at libertytalkradio.com to join the blog. Now, here's Joe.
People are angry. People are very angry. Why are they angry? Well, you just heard on the news. Now you get an $85 fine for texting while walking. And yet, the people in office, or those connected to the people in office, can confiscate billions of dollars illegally, billions, literally hundreds of billions of dollars, go before some sort of committee, and they ask them some milquetoast questions. They thank them for coming and answering them, and you never hear from them again. They can steal billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and yet nothing. They say, thank you, Mr. So-and-so. Text while you're walking, $85 or you're going to clinker. You want to know why people are angry? That's why people are angry. You want to know why people are taking to the street? Why there's the Occupy movement? There's no one thing. They're just angry. They're almost as angry as I am. Now, I need to calm down. Someone get me some coffee. And why don't we take a caller? Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Joe. Andy, how are you?
Oh, Andy, thank you very much for calling in.
How's it going today? You sound upset.
No, not me. Today's a calm day.
Well, I just got done with the ironing here, so I hear your pain.
What do you have to say to us today, Andy?
Well, I have talked to you a number of times, and I share your anger at these words that mean nothing. And I want to bring up 3 words that I know of in my line of work that have come to mean absolutely nothing, and I'm sure you'll identify with this quickly. The 3 words are growth, inflation, and unemployment.
Don't we need those 3 things? I mean, Bernanke says they're sort of like good in a way, I think. I don't know. It confuses me. Tell me about it.
Well, the problem is they've come to mean nothing. If you just talked about confiscating billions of dollars, and if you're talking about growth, once a quarter you'll hear the people on the news release GDP numbers, and they talk about how the economy's either grown fast, medium, slow, or not at all. And what people need to understand about this, and what they don't understand, is that word actually means nothing anymore, because when our federal government borrows $1.5 trillion from foreigners in the Federal Reserve to run itself, that counts as growth. And if we were to pull that out, it shouldn't count as growth, because that money needs to be paid back. And if we were to pull that number out, all of a sudden we're left with negative growth. So the term growth is basically, there's an old saying, figures lie and liars figure, and this is really a lot of what goes on. And this is something that an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and it's been that way for a long time now. There's just these words are tossed about, just like you mentioned, Middle East and freedom and patriotism and these types of things. These words are tossed about in the economic and financial circles, and they mean absolutely nothing anymore, because there's no definition. It means whatever the news person or the government official wants them to mean at that particular time that they're saying it. They're very nebulous, ambiguous, whatever you want to call it, but it's really becoming a huge problem, and it does affect freedom, because if you don't even know what the term growth means, or you don't know what inflation is, or you don't know how unemployment is measured, well, how are you're not living in a free society where you have honest information being passed around. You're being deceived.
Yeah, you know, my problem is, Andy, and I agree with you. The average person eking out a living with a family, they're busy. They're busy with their kids. Sometimes they're furthering their education. They're concerned about the education of their children, their job, fixing the house, the millions of things that we all do every day. And yet now we're being expected to understand all this stuff. And most people, I think, just simply ignore it, because it's overwhelming, and they really don't understand it. They get a lot of stuff. It's like a lot of garbage in their head, and they can repeat it, but they don't understand. They have no idea what it means.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that the Internet really, I know this is another one of those meaningless things, that what the Internet's done for freedom, but I can tell you that half a dozen years or so ago, when I started writing my own blog, when they talked about unemployment numbers, they just gave you the headline number. They said, well, it's 9%, or it's 5%, or it's 7%. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently, even the mainstreamers are starting to put in the fact of the size of the workforce and how that affects the unemployment numbers. And that's a huge step, really, because before that, people had absolutely no idea where that number came from. They knew what it was. They knew it was 8% or whatever. Now, because of people writing on the Internet and people hammering the media, and really the media losing credibility for it, you've got a situation where now they've actually expanded what they tell you. They say, well, it's 8.1%, which it was the last time it was reported, but they also noted that the workforce has shrunk to the smallest amount since it was the 1980s, I believe. And that's huge, because that now all of a sudden people are like, well, okay, it's not because we're creating a bunch of jobs, it's just because there's less people in the workforce. Well, that adds to our understanding. Now all of a sudden it goes from being a good thing, well, it was 10, now it's 8.1, now all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not so good. So there has been some progress that's been made. There's so many other of these reporting metrics, though, that you get no idea, like consumer spending, retail sales, GDP, that they're so nebulous. There's no understanding of what goes into these numbers, and that really handicaps people because they're making buying decisions, borrowing decisions, whatever, based on what they're hearing on the news, and all they're getting is this green shoots nonsense, and they're not really getting the truth.
Right. And if they got the truth, they can't even apply it. If they tried, there's no reference point. There's no place to start. It doesn't fit into their lifestyle. People are trying to eke out a living. They're trying to make do with their children, their home, whatever. They got to mow the lawn on Saturday. They're not reading economic reports unless that's their hobby or it's their job. And even those that do, I'm sure, Andy, you're an economist, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure even within the economic community, there's disagreement. Am I correct?
Tons.
Yeah, tons. Yeah. So you have the experts disagreeing, but yet we want the average person in their 20s and 30s and 40s and raising a family to understand it and to come to a conclusion. But I go blind. I can't take it anymore. But we need people like you to remind us that we cannot believe what is being said. That we got to take it and we have to take in charge of ourselves. We have to take charge of us. We have to forget about the Federal Reserve as being the central bank. Andy Sutton has to have his central bank. Joe Cristiano has to have his central bank. We have to divest ourselves from all this Mickey Mouse stuff, and we're going to talk about that someday on how we do that. Andy, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it, and I hope I hear from you again.
You will, Joe.
Right,
good talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Andy Sutton is economist and chief investment strategist from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's a regular caller on my internet program at libertytalkradio.com. The guy is brilliant, but what makes Andy really interesting, and I really like the guy, is that when he talks about complex economic issues, he talks it in language that you can understand. In fact, he puts out a column called My 2 Cents. And you can subscribe to, just go to Sutton & Associates. I'd say SUTTON-associates.net. Very interesting. It's all you need to know. It'll scare you enough to make sure you do the right thing. Folks, I get asked, they say, all right, you criticize Joe. You always criticize, but you never tell me what to do. You're like one of these screamy Mimi guys. You don't know what to do. All you do is complain. You complain, but you don't know what to do about it. Why don't you keep your mouth shut? The fact is I know what to do. I actually know what to do. But people don't do it. I mentioned it to Andy. I said, be your own central bank. Well, I don't have millions and billions of dollars, and I don't have a vault and all that stuff, and I'm just about eking out a living. You want to go out and buy bars of gold that's cost me, $80,000? No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to think. You see, each one of us are individuals. We should act and live as individuals. For example, what would you rather have? And this is not a joke. I know I kid around a lot. This is not a joke. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I always forget, 855-866-1170. 855-866-1170. Toll free, give me a call. I want to hear from you. Right? Let me finish this thought and we'll take another caller. Oh, remember, comments at libertytalkradio.com. What would you rather have? Seriously. Let's say you took a $10 bill, put it on a table. I want you to think about this. Think. If it hurts, I want you to think some more. Break through the barrier. You put a $10 bill on a table. Then you take $10 worth of toilet paper. Anybody know how many rolls of toilet paper you can buy for $10? Anybody have any idea? 12, 15, I don't know. I don't know. All right, and put that on a table. I'm not kidding you. This is not a joke. This is not an analogy. This is reality. Which one is worth more? Which one would you rather have? Now, let's say you converted that $10 to that 15 rolls of toilet paper. And I'm not being disgusting. I'm being honest, right? And you got a necessity there, something everyone wants, everyone needs. Instead of holding money, you now have toilet paper. When you hold the money, who's in charge? The federal government. When you have the toilet paper, who's in charge? You are. You own it. It's yours. Think about it. And you can be your own central bank by starting with toilet paper. You can do it with this anything. You can do it with food. You can do it with metals. You can do it with anything that you own. Anything of value that has a value, has an intrinsic value in and of itself, and has some use. If that's the way we think, as people used to think 100 years ago, everything that they had a specific use. They were independent instead of being dependent. And today we've become too dependent because we do things like rely on the government. And one way we rely on the government, one way, every one of us does, to a certain extent, is that we hold on to cash. All right, hold on. Let's see if we have another caller here. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
From Bixby, Oklahoma.
Bixby, Oklahoma. Yes, your name, please.
Jim.
Jim, what's on your mind?
Well, Joe, listening to you since the start of the program, you seem to have an aversion to the phrase cautiously optimistic, yet, and you spoke about Mojahedin and his friends in the Middle East, how absurd it is to think that they would hate our freedoms. But I would say that I got this crazy idea that maybe those drone planes that we fly over their communities and accidentally bomb innocent civilians, or that we can identify the militants in Al-Qaeda that we kill every day, just might have something to do with their dislike for our country. And perhaps that word cautiously optimistic applies to the population in those countries. They wake up every morning and they're cautiously optimistic that they're not going to be victims of a drone airstrike.
Jim, you're not on the program. Jim, you're just not on the... I hate to criticize you. I'm going to criticize you. Don't you understand? We are bombing and killing them for their own good. What is wrong with you?
I forgot. And you know, Joe, it's funny how you talk about how people just grab onto a word. And this morning's Tulsa World, the title confuses me. It says, suspected U.S. drone strikes kill 11 militants. And I'm thinking, didn't they misplace that word? Wasn't it U.S. drone strikes kill suspected militants? So, because obviously from the control rooms that are like video games in America, where we pull the trigger on those drone bombs, obviously we're able to serve justice and identify who the bad guys are. So again, we live in a mixed-up world. Words are used loosely and misunderstood, and I just wanted to let you know, since you're so confused as to why Mojahedin and his buddies might hate us, that those drone planes just might have something to do with it.
Jim, thank you so much for calling. Every once in a while, they slip and they tell the truth, okay? Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio. Appreciate it. And stay tuned. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Enjoy.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio, the voice of freedom in an America filled with a self-serving federal government operating oversized budgets that threaten our liberties. Joe would like to hear your comments. You can email Joe at comments@libertytalkradio.com. We're back with Liberty Talk Radio. If you want to join in on the conversation, call us or find us on Facebook or Twitter, or visit our site at libertytalkradio.com to join the blog. Now, here's Joe.
You know, folks, our last caller, I think his name was Jim. What he fails to understand is that what our objective is to get the poor in this country to go overseas and kill the poor in another country. Very simple. We do that very well. Jim, I hope you understand that now. Let's take a caller. Line 2. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, Joe.
Yes.
Paul Jacob here.
Paul, thank you very much for calling in. Paul, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, I think a word that gets tossed around quite a lot is worth thinking about, and that is gridlock.
Ah, gridlock.
It seems to me that when someone is elected who wants to spend a bunch of money and embraces the idea of the federal government as the end-all and be-all, that's just fine. But if someone is elected who says, gee, maybe we're taxed enough and maybe spending $1 trillion a year more than we take in ought to change, we ought to cut the size and scope of the federal government, well, that person is talking about gridlock.
That's right. is gridlock good?
Well, you know, that's the other question, and I think if it's a choice between spending $1 trillion that we don't have and borrowing it from the Chinese, I think gridlock sounds wonderful. In fact, maybe to paraphrase Patrick Henry, if this be gridlock, make the most of it.
You know, sometimes I think my wife is the consultant to the government, you know, when it comes to overspending. I'm only kidding, honey. I had to say that because it sounded funny to me, but it's not funny at all. But, you know, that's interesting when they say gridlock, because if you read the Constitution, the president and they really have power to do nothing other than to keep a check and balance on one another to make sure they don't do what they're doing now. Is that correct, or am I way off base?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. You know, it goes so far, though, that it's not just a matter that some folks are involved in pushing gridlock because they don't support the idea of Washington being the, you know, fix-it for every problem. But recently there have been a number of folks who have suggested that the solution is for the media to continue to not be even-handed. You know, we hear so much talk about Fox News being a conservative, right-wing television outfit, and to some degree that's accurate. But what's not accurate is the fact that so much of our media has a point of view and hides that point of view. Not very well, because we all see it.
Right.
But the idea that Washington should expand is something that most politicians of both parties agree with. Anytime there's talk of cuts, it's always a talk of a cut in the rate of increase. And it's also something that the press corps tends to favor. And I think, you know,
right.
Part of it is just self-interest. If you run Washington, if you get to spend the money, you like spending. If you get to report on the powerful goings-on in Washington, you don't want the power of Washington to be reduced. And so we have a chattering class of both media and politicians who tend to like what's best for them. Wow, what a surprise. And that what's best for them
right.
is for Washington to continue to be the powerful determiner of all political issues.
Yeah, but what drives me nuts, which makes my left eye go blank, is the fact that people complain about it. They're bums. You can't trust any of them. I hate politics. I hate everybody. I hate them all. And then they run to the polls to vote. Who are they kidding?
Well, you know, it's interesting, though. So often the choice that people have, or maybe the choice they believe they have, is so incredibly limited. For instance, the last presidential election, you had a choice between the two major candidates, and of course in Oklahoma, there were only two on the ballot, no other candidates but McCain and Obama. And let's say you oppose the idea of stimulus spending by the federal government, you oppose the idea of bailouts, you oppose the idea of a worldwide military police operation. Well, you had two candidates running who were on the other side of you on all of those issues.
Right.
And of course, you know, oftentimes in the rest of the country where people are given more than just two choices, you know, blue team, red team, you hear this argument that you're going to waste your vote if you vote for somebody else.
Right.
But there's the problem is, if you vote for someone that you don't like their policies because they're worse than, you know, because they're not as bad as the next guy, you are voting for policies you don't like.
That is
when
correct.
You succeed.
Absolutely correct.
And
We see
elect
this all the
that
time.
person, you have just said, you know, you can say whatever you want in the privacy of your own home. What you did in public at the voting booth was to endorse the policies you don't believe in. The only thing
Right.
worse than losing an election is winning it with a candidate who you know isn't any good.
Right. Paul, thank you very much for calling in. I really appreciate it. Now, this is Paul Jacobs. So I recognize your voice. Am I correct? This is Paul Jacobs?
This is him.
Okay, folks, you can read Paul Jacobs on a daily basis. Subscribe to thisiscommonsense.com by Paul Jacobs. You'll be glad you did. Paul, thank you very much for calling in.
Joe, my pleasure.
Right. Bye-bye. You know, folks, people say, well, you know, it's my obligation to vote. That's my obligation to vote. Yeah, that's why I vote, you know. And sometimes, you know, you don't like it, you swallow. You know, it's like taking bad medicine. You swallow and you pull the lever and you walk out and you just hope for the best. No, you don't have to vote. Don't you understand? If you read the Constitution, it says you are a dissident when it comes to the government. You are a revolutionary in thought. You are a dissident in action. Read the Declaration of Independence. It doesn't say, your obligation is to vote. No, it doesn't. It says, don't vote. Just think. Someone runs for office. Nobody shows up. There's 35,000 people in an area who should be voting. The guy gets 3 votes. His girlfriend, his other girlfriend, and the third girlfriend that no one knows about. What does he say? Well, you know, Mr. Jones here won the election handily. He got a unanimous decision. Out of 35,000 votes, 3 people voted for him. Let's introduce our new whatever. Could you think of that? Don't vote! Be a dissident. You're revolutionary in thought. Dissidents in action. Don't vote. Only if there's someone that you truly believe in. Let's take another caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, my name's Paul.
Paul. All right, Paul, where you calling from?
Here in Tulsa.
Oh, Paul, thank you.
Listen, as long as we're on the topic of words, I just wanted to say that I'm amazed every 4 years it's the same words that come out of the presidential candidates' mouths. And somehow they forget that these are the same words, the electorate forgets, these are the same words we heard 4 years ago. And they're completely, you know, they're the exact opposite of what they actually mean. So how is that? And I think the last caller touched on that a little bit, that somehow we are fooled into voting every 4 years. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. They're the same words we heard in the last election. They're changed. Well, the actual meaning is that nothing's going to change. But somehow every 4 years we're fooled into going to the polls. Millions upon millions and millions of people go to vote. For what reason? I can't find it. I just can't.
You know, Paul, my favorite comment is this. You know, I have to vote for that guy because I'm and then fill in the blank. I'm a Republican, Democrat, you know, because I'm of that party. I have to. It's as if you didn't vote for that person. They're going to come over, shoot you, and slaughter your entire family.
Well, I can tell you right now that I'll tell everybody that's not true. I haven't voted since 1996. I'm never voting in this country again.
Wow.
Nobody's ever audited my taxes. Nobody's ever come to my door. There aren't black cars with tinted windows parked outside. You don't have to vote. These guys are clowns. They're all clowns. And instead, people are told, well, you know, I got to go out and vote because, you know, it's my civic duty. There's no civic duty. It is a civic disservice when you go out and vote for these idiots. And that's all there is to it. You know, if you're that strong, if you have that strong of an allegiance to a party, why don't you just run yourself? Or find somebody who's better, because these people are the same. They're playing to their constituency, and those are the people with the money who have nothing to do with the person who's going to work 9 to 5. I can tell you that right now. Don't vote. It's a waste of time.
Right, Paul. You know what? It's really simple to say. You make a heck of a lot of sense, and I agree with you. And I guess you and I are incredibly. We hate our country. We don't love our country. We don't hug concrete or trees or something like that. That's the unfortunate part. Thank you very much for calling in KFAQ 1170 Liberty Talk Radio, Paul. Take care now. Thank you. You know, he just, you know, unfortunately, you know, people say, oh, you're so negative. You know, I'm a positive person. I keep a positive outlook on things. You know, I don't want, you know, you're too negative for me. That's why I don't listen to your radio. I feel all negative inside. I can't function anymore. And it's a shame because we are afraid of reality, because reality is what they take away from us from the day we start in our government schools or internment camps, whatever you want to call them. Folks, this is Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. Well, I appreciate you being with us for this hour. Send me your comments anytime to comments@libertytalkradio.com.
Sunday morning at 6 on 1170 KFAQ in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Also, you can hear Joe by visiting our website at libertytalkradio.com. We encourage Americans to shed what has become conventional thinking regarding our political structure and join our founders by becoming revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Joe would like to hear your comments by emailing him at comments@libertytalkradio.com.